Hi, I'm Dr. Tommy Voris, author of the #1 international best-selling women's weight loss book, 5 Evolutions for Sustainable Weight Loss, which guides you through 5 specific evolutions of the mind to transform your body forever. And I'm commonly referred to as the anti-diet doctor, and that's what I want to talk with you about today. The reality that you're not going to find the permanent weight loss you're looking for from starting yet another catchy-sounding diet. In this video, you're going to discover how I discovered that diets are not the answer if you're looking for lasting, sustainable, permanent weight loss. Welcome back, and I'm glad that you're here. You may know that my wife Pamela and I lost well over 100 pounds together, and that we've kept the weight off for over 10 years now. But what you may not know is that we both struggled with our weight for most of our adult lives, and how becoming anti-diet, in other words, how taking our focus away from dieting and moving it towards something else, which I'll share with you in this video, changed not only our weight, but also every other area of our lives for the better. And more importantly, how it will for you too. Because the bottom line is, you can do this. You can do this. You can do this regardless of how long you've been struggling with your weight. How can I say this? Because I used to struggle with my weight for as long as I can remember. So much so that being overweight somehow became part of my identity. It got intertwined with who I was. And I distinctly remember that for most of my adult life, weight was such a huge, all-encompassing issue for me. And I have to say up front that if you have never really struggled with your weight, it's impossible to truly understand what it feels like. What it feels like to be continually ashamed of your body, to not be proud of your body, and to be reminded of what you try to forget every time you catch a glimpse of yourself in a mirror or some other reflective surface throughout the day. I remember trying on shirts. I remember going to the store and trying on shirts and only caring about one thing. How well does this shirt hide my love handles or my muffin top? And I would try a shirt on. And I remember I'd always untuck it a little bit on the sides, or I'd look at it in the mirror to see if somehow the pattern of the shirt was somehow able to create some sort of an optical illusion to hide that which I was embarrassed of, that which I was ashamed of, right? How far I had unintentionally let myself go. And as I said before, if a person has never ordered the salad in public and then secretly couldn't wait to get home to the ice cream, they'll think I'm rambling on here. And I'm sure they'll tune off this video, right? But the bottom line is that I felt horrible about my weight, and then even worse about myself for not being able to control it, to not be able to handle it, right? Because the fact of the matter is that I was really trying to get my weight under control. So what do you think I did over all these years, right? I did what the diet industry spends billions of dollars in advertising to make me want to do, which if you're like me, is the same thing I'm sure you've done as well. I turned to diets. And I'm guessing you already know what happened. I would lose some weight. I would do okay. I'd be happy. And then very predictably, little by little by little, I would gain all the weight back again. And if that wasn't bad enough, many times I would gain even more weight than I started with. This was so irritating. And if you're like me, I'm sure you've had this extremely frustrating experience as well. So I was trying to figure out, what am I going to do? What should I do next? Then at some point I thought, okay, the reason dieting wasn't working for me was only because I hadn't found the right diet for me or for my body type, right? I haven't found the right diet which would work for me and my body. And I thought if I could just find the right one that worked for me, all of my prayers would be answered. And maybe you felt the same way too. So what I do? For years, I tried all sorts of different diets, right? Some extreme, others more conservative, but this in itself created yet another huge problem. You see, I didn't know it at the time, but every time you lose weight and then gain all the weight back again, it becomes harder to lose weight the next time. Have you noticed this yourself? The more times you lose weight and then gain the weight back again, the harder and harder it becomes to lose weight, and especially to keep it off the next time. This is so important that I'll explain the mechanism, right? I'll explain how this works in a future video. So I was deep in this losing battle, and after having tried so many different diets for so many years, it became clear to me that the type of diet was not the issue. So then I thought, I just have to get more serious. I have to get more serious about dieting, and what better way to get more serious than to begin teaching them? Because this gets the group mentality, this gets accountability, so I jumped in with both feet. And within a year or so, I received certification and began teaching a few of the most popular diets to some of my patients. And being a chiropractor, actually I'm not sure if you know my story. I've owned 11 chiropractic clinics and eventually founded and then partnered in 5 holistic medical centers. So we had lots and lots of patients coming in. And a handful of them came to us originally because they were overweight and they had the typical weight-related issues, right? They had knee pain, foot pain, and of course they had back pain. And at the same time, we had a lot of other patients who came in because they had severe work-related injuries, right? These injuries that were so severe, many times forcing them out of work and into a sedentary lifestyle. And as you might expect, many of them started to gain a lot of weight rapidly. So as I mentioned, I became certified and was teaching a few of the mainstream diets for my patients, and my goal was to help my patients, but also to help myself, to take my own advice, and finally, once and for all, get my weight handled. So what do you think happened? You probably can guess what happened, right? Exactly the same thing as when I was dieting alone, except this time it was me with a group of patients, and we would all lose weight together. We'd be so excited, so fired up, and then sure enough, just give it some time. 1 month, 2 months, 6 months tops, and we would all gain all of our weight back again. It was this crazy, endless yo-yo cycle of dieting for a while and then gaining all the way back. Then dieting again and then gaining the weight back. Can you relate to this? This continued until one day a patient confided in me, which changed everything, changed my world. You see, at first, my patients would they would somewhat censor their conversations with me. Not that they were purposely trying to lie or withhold information from me. It's just that they kept the conversation somewhat superficial, especially regarding their weight. So they would tell me that they wanted to lose weight so that their clothes would fit better, or so that they could look better in their swimsuit, maybe for a vacation they were planning, right? Or look better in their shorts. But then, as they felt more comfortable with me, they would confide in me, and they would tell me their real concerns. And I'll never forget, one day a patient asked to speak with me privately, and with tears in his eyes, he confided in me that his weight was stealing his life. That he just didn't feel like himself anymore. That he used to have all these dreams, all these ambitions. He had these goals for his future that were now, in his own words, all messed up. And the worst part about it, he told me, was that his weight and how he felt about his weight was affecting his relationship with the person he cared most about, his wife. You see, he just didn't feel attractive anymore. And I'm definitely not going to use his words, but let me just say that he was embarrassed of his body. And as a result, intimately, he and his wife were growing apart. And as I listened to him, as I listened to his story, as I listened to his words, I realized that secretly I was feeling the same way. And I went home, and I tell you, it was a tough conversation. I went home and I confided in my wife. And it turns out she too was feeling the exact same way. We felt so uncomfortable with our own bodies. How could we feel comfortable being intimate with each other? And as a result, we had noticeably grown apart over the years. And this is what really, really, really bothered me. This is what I was no longer okay with. Quite frankly, I just had it. And enough was enough. Have you ever felt that way? Have you ever felt that way before, where you knew something had to shift? I knew I had to get to the bottom of this once and for all. I really had to figure this out. It was like I was on a mission, and I dove deep and started studying the newest diet programs at the time. And as I started to go through the subtle differences, something felt way off. And then it hit me. It hit me like a ton of bricks. I realized that this exact approach was what I always did. I would get serious about losing weight, and I would turn to dieting. And at this point, after all these years and all these diets, I knew I had to do something different. And that's when I had my big aha moment. I realized that I was looking at the entire thing entirely the wrong way, because I knew from my patients, from my wife, from my friends, and especially from myself. And on some level, I'm sure that you're beginning to realize as well that diets are not the answer. And it's at that point that I did something totally different. Something which ended up changing my entire world. I stopped studying diets and I started studying people. Specifically, the 3%. Specifically, I started studying the people who I call the 3%. As you probably know, up to 97% of all people who start a diet fail to lose weight long term. So I started to study the 3%. The 3% of people who lost weight and kept the weight off forever, regardless of what diet they were on, regardless of whether they were on a diet or not on a diet, regardless if they joined the gym, started working out at home, or didn't exercise regularly at all. I started studying the outliers. I started studying the 3% who succeeded in losing weight and, most importantly, succeeded in keeping it off. I bet you know somebody like this. Think for a second. Someone who had been struggling with weight for years and years, and then something shifted inside of them, and they began to succeed. They began to lose weight, and they never went back. I began to study these people, and especially that shift. And the more I studied the 3%, the more I analyzed and researched them, the deeper I went, the more excited I got, because I began to uncover a common thread. I began to find specific similarities between all these different people. And what I discovered is so groundbreaking that it became the genesis of all of my programs. And let me share with you one of the most important things I discovered, which is why I'm referred to as the anti-diet doctor. The 3% didn't put their focus on dieting. They didn't put their focus on yet another diet. Instead, they put their focus, their attention, their energy on themselves, and specifically on who they were becoming, what I call their evolution. And universally, they had an evolution of their mind first, which transformed their bodies forever. And the how is what I'm excited to be sharing with you in future videos. So subscribe right here on this page, or better yet, go to antidietdoctor.com/blog and subscribe. This way you won't miss any of the videos. Also, I really want to hear from you. I really want to hear, what are your thoughts? What's your opinion? So be sure to leave a comment below. Again, I'm Dr. Tommy Voris, the Anti-Diet Doctor. Until we meet, be awesome.